going to get unhauled. I don't know if I want to do that to somebody else. Maybe. Death in the Family. Did I already cover this? But I'm not pressuring myself. This is going to be so long. Great book. Anyway, then I read Horn. Not trying to toot my own horn. Yeah, I know. What is the dude's name? That interview. Maybe I'll just keep it. Really bright. So I'm a little upset about that, and that never happens. Hey everybody, welcome back to Books Yada Yada. I'm Dina and thank you so much for watching my channel. So today I've got a very late November wrap up, but this is the thing, you guys, this is going to have to be a rapid video because I read 17 books last month. I know, I don't know how it happened. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm just going to get started right away. So the very first book that I read, I'm not going to go over all of them. The only books that I'm going to do really quick reviews on are the books that I threw in as bonus books that were not part of my TBR at all. So you can see all the reviews of the books that I had on my TBR. I'm going to insert the cards above. Okay, so the first book was The Tenant by Katrine Engberg. Now, in the review, I think it might be out of sequence because Head Full of Ghosts was in there too by Paul Tremblay. This was an excellent book. Paul Tremblay's Head Full of Ghosts was a library. My husband's accent is wearing off on me. You notice that? Sometimes that happens. Head Full of Ghosts was a library book, so that went back. I'll insert a picture of it. Or maybe I won't, because if you just look at the cards, you'll see the review on that book. Yeah, I absolutely hated this book, you guys. I think I was a little easier on it in the review, but hated it. I read We Sold Our Souls, which I did a whole video on. I'll insert the cards up there. I read Final Girls by Riley Sager. And I know he has a new one coming out, I want to say sometime in March or in the summer. So hopefully his new book will be promising. I'm hoping, right? Then I read, I've got them like just scattered all over the place here, but The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is a dark academia book. I'm not going to review it now. I loved it though. I don't know a lot about dark academia. This was an excellent read, you guys, and I am going to dedicate, hopefully, a segment on this book. Holding by Mr. Graham Norton, and you guys remember that review I did of this a few videos back. Excellent book. I really enjoyed it. Great job, Graham Norton. And then I read, this one, you guys. I've been wanting to talk about this one for a while. Okay, this was not part of my TBR. However, if you are familiar with the HBO series that just wrapped up over Thanksgiving weekend, I believe, called The Undoing, featuring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant, directed by Suzanne Bier, who is a very prominent Danish director. This is the book that series was adapted from, okay? I was watching The Undoing, and I was completely caught up in it. The whole premise of the book is basically, or the HBO series is about a woman who finds out that her husband may or may not have killed a woman who was part of their children, basically went to school together. I'm not going to get into it too much. So what ended up happening was I was watching the series, and then I realized that it was a book that I had on my shelf for a very long time, and I've been meaning to read it, and I didn't even realize it. This book was written, I think, in 2012. I'm not going to bother to look, but it was just one of those books that I kept seeing, and I just couldn't, for some reason, unhaul. Oh my God! As I'm watching The Undoing, I saw as the opening sequence ran in the credits said, based on the book You Should Have Known by this author, whose name I'm not going to keep trying to pronounce. So I'm like, oh, you've got to be shitting, right? So I went ahead and read the book because I wanted to see how well the HBO adaptation lived up to the book. Well, I'm going to tell you something, guys, right now. In my opinion, the series was much, much better than the book. And that usually doesn't happen, you guys, right? This book, oh my God, you guys, it just is not a very good book. All I'm going to say is if you like to read about really snooty, snotty, rich people from the Upper East and West Side of Manhattan who talk about their Hermes bags for like 100 pages of the book. It just was the characters in the book are very vapid, and in the series it just does not portray them that way at all. So yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this. I was going to do like a little segment of, the book compared to the series, but I think I said enough. I mean, definitely watch the series, definitely do not read the book. Next book I read was Decaffeinated Corpse, which I talked about on my last video. It was my little cozy. I already talked about the book and how much I love this series, so this was great, and I'm going to continue on. Then I read, did I already talk about Death in the Family? I might have already covered this one. Anyway, this is a debut novel, again, detective series that takes place in the Thousand Islands region of New York. This was a great book, you guys. Full review in, again, one of the cards above I will insert. If you love police procedurals that are a little different and take place in a different setting and have a female detective as the protagonist, which I absolutely love. Very good, closed room, closed circle, locked room, whatever you want to call it, Agatha Christie type book. And as a debut novel, Tessa Wigert does a fantastic job. So definitely check this one out. And then I read this one, you guys, The Escape Room. This was a bonus book that I did not have in my TBR, by Megan Golden, who wrote The Night Swim, which a lot of people read this year. So this book came out before, I think it came out last year or the year before. I've got to tell you, you guys, out of all of the books on my TBR, this one being the bonus books, one of my bonus books that I just kind of threw in there, I loved this book, and I'm going to have to say this is one of probably my favorite books of the year, for sure. Definitely by far my favorite book of November. And I don't want to get into a full review of this book because it's just going to take up way too much time, and I'm already going on 15 minutes here, so I don't want to make this video super long. This was just a really good book about a woman who is working on Wall Street. She comes from basically, nothing, and works her way through school, and finally, eventually, through all different types of roads, gets her MBA and starts working on Wall Street for a financial firm, and all kinds of hell breaks loose in this firm. And the escape room is essentially a elevator where the characters in the escape room are sent there by a sort of mystery person. They have to figure their way out of this escape room, but things just kind of don't go that great. I'm not going to spoil anything. The nice thing about this book, I appreciated, was that the publishers did not label it as a mystery. So you kind of already know what's going on and what's going to happen. It is definitely branded as a thriller, as a suspense novel, and that it is by far. It is just one of those books that you either up all night reading, or you are like gone during the day and you're away from it and you cannot wait to get back to it to read it and find out what happens. It's such a good book and kept me on the edge of my seat. So The Escape Room, Megan Golden, I loved it. I thought it was better than The Night Swim. All right, so these ones, you guys, again, these were bonus books that I just had on my shelf and I needed to read. The Marriage Lie by Kimberly Bell. This is the last book I'm going to read by Kimberly Bell. She's not a terrible writer, but all of the female protagonists in her books are always not very smart, and I don't care for that, you guys. I like my women to be smart, just like I like my men to be smart. I don't like stupid women, and Kimberly Bell, unfortunately, just writes really vapid female protagonists, unfortunately. So this was the third book I read by her, and I just did not care for it. I actually ended up DNFing it at 100 pages. So Marriage Lie, Kimberly Bell. Then I read I Found You by Lisa Jewell. Again, I love Lisa Jewell, but she's kind of a hit or miss for me. I've loved and hated her. Most of the books I've read by her equally. I will keep reading her books. I know that as of late, her books have gotten more thrillery and more suspenseful. This one just was it dragged on, and I ended up DNFing it at about 150 pages because with her, she's a really good writer, and I really like to hang on because there's always some kind of interesting twist with her books. But this one just dragged and dragged, and I was like, I read this one, The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. See, I was on a mission this month, you guys, to read as many books that were kind of mainstreaming in 2019 and 2020 that I just had not gotten around to yet, that I saw floating around on BookTube that I really, really wanted to read, and I just didn't get to. So that's kind of what happened was as this year is ending, I was cramming these books that I wanted to get to. This book wasn't that bad. I listened to it and read it. The narration was great. And if it hadn't been for the narration, I might have DNF'd it. I don't know. I loved the setting. This takes place in the Scottish countryside, I guess you could say, or maybe the Highlands. I'm not sure. I don't know my Scottish geography very well. Simon and Amy, maybe you can help me out with that. This book was another Christie-esque type book where you have a closed room type book and not in the sense that they're all in a house. They're more scattered. And so basically you have a group of friends from Oxford who decide to get together and they do this every year, and they wanted to change it up this year and do a hunting party. So they're up in the Highlands or up in somewhere in Scotland, and there's a massive snowstorm that happens, and they're basically locked into their cabins. They're locked into the resort that they're staying at. Most of the characters in the book, and this is told from many different points of view. So if you like that kind of thing, you might like this. I actually do like a lot of different point of views, so that kind of was another thing that kept me hanging on. You get all of these different perspectives. Most of the characters you're not going to like. I felt like some of the characters in the book who did not have a voice or did not have a point of view but were talked about probably were more interesting than the ones that actually did have a voice and did have a point of view. And those characters that didn't have a voice felt like they were thrown in as just token characters, and I didn't like that. It almost felt like overkill to me, and it's like, why bother putting these characters in the book if you're not really going to explore them at all? So I didn't like that. The only two characters in this book that I really enjoyed were, I cannot remember their names. So Heather and Doug are like the keepers of the resort, and they were the only two characters that I really enjoyed their points of view. So out of, 5 stars, I probably gave this one 3.5. It wasn't bad at all. It was a bonus book. Overall, it was okay. And then the last one, I believe this was the last one that I read. No, it wasn't. Oh God. You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. Oh my God, you guys, this book. I just feel, I don't know if you're like me, but I've read all of their books, and there's just been 3 so far. I've read the first one was The Wife Between Us, which I absolutely loved. And when I read that book, I'm like, yes, here's a pair of co-authors who are going to be my new favorite. Then I read An Anonymous Girl, and I did not really care for that one. It was okay. And then I read this one, which is their latest, and I hated it, you guys. I just hated this book. Very vapid, very predictable. Big reveal, or the twist at the end really wasn't that exciting for me at all. So I didn't care for this book. I'm not really going to get into it too much, but yeah, I feel like, I hate to say this, but I feel like Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen are sort of on a downward descending decline, however you want to put it. Where they really started off strong in the first book, but then just have kind of gone downhill. And that's just my opinion. You might feel like it's the complete reverse. You might have loved this book and hated the other two. But yeah, this one just didn't work for me at all.
Yeah, I read this one or listened to this one too, guys. Don't hold your breath because it was awful.
The last 2 books I read were library books. so I don't have them physically. I had to bring them back. But one was The Other Misses by Mary Kubica. That book, oh gosh, that was another book that I know a lot of people really loved, but I'm going to quote, and not well, I'm not quoting verbatim here. But one of my BookTube buddies, Kayla Lenzen, whose channel you should definitely check out because she's absolutely a wonderful booktuber. I will link her channel down below, made a really great point. And she said something to the effect of, for people who read a lot of psychological thrillers, myself, right? You may not like The Other Misses because it may or may not be slightly predictable for you. For those people who don't read a lot of psychological thrillers and are just sort of getting into reading psychological thrillers, you might really like. And when she said that, she had such a valid point because psychological thrillers that is my genre. I think what ended up happening was I read way too many psychological thrillers this year. And going towards the end of the year, The Other Misses just was so predictable. I'm not even going to talk about that book too much because the underlying theme, if you will, I can't really say much about it. And those of you who read it know what I mean, because if I say anything, I know I'm just going to completely spoil it. It was a really great idea. It was a great premise. It just didn't work for me. So I appreciated that Kayla did that review. Okay, and then the last book that I read for this month was The Nanny by Gilly McMillan. This book, again, honest opinion, out of 5 stars, I would have given it like a 3.5. I loved the characters in this book. It was mostly female driven. The mother in this book is amazingly wicked. And so I really enjoyed it. The ending, there was definitely kind of a twist. Again, it was sort of like the escape room when I mentioned before that it's not so much a mystery to me. It wasn't that much of a mystery, but the characters were interesting enough. That one was just okay, but I think I got a little burnt out with psychological thrillers this month that nothing really was surprising me by the end of my reading month. And that's why I decided, and I'm going to transition now into my December TBR-ish. That's why I decided to start reading more light and fluffy books this month, you guys. So I'm not even going to do a December TBR. One thing I just want to mention really quick, you guys, is my husband and I, because of COVID, we've been watching a lot of TV. And what we've decided to do is go back and actually rewatch some of the series that we loved in the past, like Game of Thrones and True Blood. So we are watching True Blood right now, which started back in 2008 and went and ran till 2014. It had 7 seasons. So we are going back and rewatching it, and it's just crazy rewatching the show because I haven't seen it since way back then. And we never saw the very final season. So I still don't know what happens. Right now we're like in season 6. And what I decided to do was I'm like thinking to myself, Dina, hey, you're looking for a paranormal or a vampire mystery series, book series to get into. Why don't you read the Sookie Stackhouse series? So we're watching True Blood, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to read the books. Why not? I love the show so much, and I love it even more a second time around. And so I called the book barn this morning, and it was like, hey, do you have the Sookie Stackhouse series? Well, it turns out they had 11 of the 13 books. And I got half of them are paperback, half of them are hardcovers. I got 11 out of the 13 books for like $16.
Yeah, so like I said, you guys, I got 11 out of the 13 Sookie Stackhouse books. As you can see, there's paperbacks and hardcovers there. This is so much fun, and it's fun in Santa. Is that sacrilege? I don't know. I think it's vampire sacrilege if it's anything at all. Oops. Anyhow, so I'm reading that one right now, and then I had a little avalanche there. I really tried hard to line up all the paperbacks, but they just kept falling, so no big deal. Yep, there we go. Okay. But look at the covers, you guys. They're so cute. They're just so cute and pretty. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying reading these books, and I'm very surprised how well written they are. I did try to read Charlene Harris's other 2 book series. Well, she has a few, but I couldn't get into either of them, the Texas one and Aurora Tea Garden. But I'm really loving this one.
So I'm so excited because I just finished the very first book in the series, and I love it so much. It's so much fun to read and watch and see where the show came from, where it spawned from. It's just awesome. So that's basically it, you guys. I didn't want to make this wrap up too long. Yeah. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I know this was a little bit of an exasperated kind of kind of video because I had to cover like 17 books. If you guys have read any of these books at all that I talked about, please comment down below. Let me know. As usual, talk to me. Let me know what you're reading. What are you doing right now? Are you kind of in the same boat I'm in?
Hello, is it me you're looking for?
Are you like not necessarily in a reading slump, but just sort of taking a break and reading things that you normally wouldn't read, or just trying to do something different with your reading habits? Let me know. Comment down below. Yeah, so have a great rest of your day, and I will see you the next time. Thank you so much for watching.